This is unlike a normal webinar. This is more about experiential learning. And I request everybody to just go and grab a pen and paper or a pencil and a paper because we will be needing it. Today's topic is very interesting. It is detached involvement, a prerequisite to mediate. Today's main speaker is Mr. K.S. Sarma. Mr. Sarma is one of the most sought after speaker, and he's a trainer in leadership, negotiation, mediation, and human relation skills, I would say rather. He's presently CEO of Life Skills India Training Private Limited, based at Chennai. He's director of Nemus Software Solutions Private Limited, based in Hyderabad. He's an accredited mediator from IIAM and a certified commercial arbitrator. Thereafter, in fact, after getting training from IIAM, he's also a faculty member over there. Mr. Sarma, I think we are going to have a very interesting session with you because Mr. Sarma believes that the biggest challenge that leadership of organizations world over face today is to stimulate trust, commitment, and cooperation within the organization and in its relationship with the outside stakeholders. His leadership workshop focuses on facing this challenge effectively. This is just a small introduction of Mr. Sarma, and as we move forward, you will know him personally. The moderator for today is Ms. Radhika Shapurji. Ms. Radhika is founder and CEO of Mediation Mantras, which is based out of Gurgaon, Haryana, India. Mediation Mantras is a strategic partner to the Singapore International Mediation Center, as well as CAMP Mediation and Arbitration Practice, Bangalore, which we all know Miss Lee is like the name which comes to our mind. Radhika specializes in resolving internal conflict between leaders and cross-function teams at the workplace. She is part of global training faculty at SAGE Mediation Singapore. And if you can recollect, SAGE has just now got into a tripartite agreement with Madhyam, Strauss, and SAGE, which we just got to know a few days back by the name of Sarmas. Radhika ji is also an Aspen Fellow and part of the Ananta Aspen India Leadership Initiative. She's also been a jury member of the various international bodies, the Cannes Festival of Creativity, Cannes Lions, and Smikes Asia, Singapore. Our chief guest, Mr. Jawad, if I actually start introducing him, everybody is going to unmute themselves and give me a volley of, are you kidding? You need to introduce Mr. Jawad to us, who's been our guru for so many of us. So I would not, without much ado, I pass on the virtual mic to Radhika ji to take the evening forward.
Thank you so much.
And just request everyone, please grab a paper and a pen. We will be needing it. Thank you so much. Good evening, and let's begin.
Thank you so much, Pooja. That was so kind of you to introduce all three of us for a interesting session ahead. I can see there are lots of people who have joined us. Today, I'm your moderator for the day, everyone. And we have a very interesting topic called detached involvement and how this is a prerequisite to mediate. I think, and it's interesting how this actually came about. I think Jawad and Jonathan had written an article on neutrality and impartiality and how it is difficult to mediate if you have certain unconscious or conscious biases, and how do you handle that? I think this is one of the fundamental characteristics that mediators will have to shape, which is how do you be neutral and how to be impartial. And I made a couple of comments, and so did Mr. Sarma. And I think this sort of led to today's meeting, which is perhaps the first of what we are gathering, the first of the monthly meetings that the ambassadors of mediation has decided to hold going forward. I think which is a great initiative to get mediators to actually hear, discuss, and learn. And it is an ongoing process. So thank you so much, Mr. Sarma, for joining us. Before I hand it over, I just thought we'll go a little bit more into the topic. We've been, in fact, Tangachan, Jawad, Mr. Sarma has, since yesterday and today morning, we've been discussing how do we make this session interesting for all of you? What does this topic mean? It was personally very intriguing for me, and it also made it, I was quite curious to say, to actually learn what does this mean, because detached involvement, it's a complete they are two opposite words, and how does this come together, and what should it actually mean for professional mediators is something that I think we are going to learn today a little bit about, I'm sure. Neutrality, impartiality, being non-judgmental, shifting the focus from a position to an interest, to a common interest, and most importantly, listening. These are few prerequisites for mediators that we all have learned in our training programs. And I think, is this topic going to actually add to that? Actually not, is what I can gather, because these are some of the questions that did arise in my mind. But as I was talking to Mr. Sarma, I think we are going to learn something very different and very new. Um, as I asked him these questions, his answers were even more intriguing. And I asked, what is an example of detached uh, involvement? And he gave the example of Thomas Edison. Apparently, Thomas Edison actually had a thousand. He had had 1,000 attempts to actually invent the light bulb. And somebody asked him, he says, you know what? You had 1,000 failures. How did you move on? And I think in that sentence, and how Thomas Edison actually invented the light bulb, and it took him thousands of times to get there. And his answer was, well, they were not failures. They were simply activities that did not work. And I just had to keep moving on till I found the solution that would work. Because in his mind, the goal was, how do I get the light bulb to light without oil? And everything else that didn't allow that to happen was just another combination of things that were not to be, and he had to move on. So I think that was a very interesting example of how Edison actually looked at invention and what he brought to the world. And so it went to the next is the next question is, are we scientists? No, or not, but we are finding different paths to addressing a solution. I think that is something that we all know. And I think Mr. Sarma has some very interesting ways in which he's going to bring this alive. He's going to talk about his new methods. And I must also say that I met Mr. Sarma when I was doing my training with IIM. He trains at the Indian Institute of Arbitration and Mediation, which is when I met him. And I really enjoyed his session. We also met this year in March before the lockdown. So I feel very honored and very happy to have Mr. Sarma as a speaker. And I also have a wonderful, wonderful human being, which is Jawad. And I think Jawad, what Mr. Sarma is going to bring to the table, and I think some of the interesting ideas and actual on the ground practical examples of what Jawad has is also very interesting. And I hope I can bring all of this together to make this into a lovely session with Mr. Sarma and with Jawad. So I think Mr. Sarma has already been introduced, and I also have, and I think I'm not going to waste my time any further on that. I think all of you would like to hear him, And I use this opportunity to move over to Mr. Sarma, and I look forward to Jawad being part of this very exciting discussion. Mr. Sarma, over to you.
Thank you, Radhika, and thank you, Pooja, for your very kind words. Good evening, my young friends. Uh, it gives me immense joy to be in your midst this afternoon, though virtually, and to interact with you. I'm very grateful to the ambassadors of mediation, and in particular to A.J. Jawad, Pooja Anand, Kavita Balakrishnan, and V.P. Tangachan for creating this wonderful opportunity for me to discuss with you on detached involvement, a prerequisite to mediate. As a few non-mediators are attending this program, it is only fair on my part to say what is meant by mediate. To mediate means to facilitate negotiations between the parties to a dispute whose interests are either shared or opposed or common. Mediation encourages the parties to see the dispute as a mutual problem to be solved by them jointly, having regard to each other's interests, needs, and concerns. I request the learned mediators attending this webinar to forgive me for saying something which all of you know better and much deeper. As all of you may know, learning generally is of three types. One is scholastic learning, which we underwent in schools and colleges, where we learned by reading textbooks and by listening to lectures. The other is intuitive learning, where a person learns from intuition. And the third is experiential learning, where a person learns from one's own experience. Experience is the only source of knowledge, said Swami Vivekananda. But experiential learning is very, very expensive. Every time a person learns from his own or her own experience, he or she would have already paid a very heavy price for that. For example, somebody starts a new enterprise, makes a lot of investments into that, and after 2 years loses all the money and then says, I have now learned how not to run a business. Somebody keeps his finger on fire and then says, I have now learned that fire burns. If you and I are not keeping our fingers on fire, it is because somebody burnt his fingers and passed on that lesson to us. So we need to learn also from the experience of others. In this short workshop, a considerable part will be devoted to experiential learning. But don't be scared, you will not have to pay any price in terms of mental agony, pain, or suffering or loss, because these are simulated experiences developed through well designed activities. On the one hand, you will not undergo any pain or suffering or loss. On the other hand, it will be fun filled and you will enjoy. And very importantly, at the same time, the value of learning, the quality of learning from these simulated experiences will be equal to that of learning from real life experiences. Because what you will undergo now is also real life experience. The only difference is that it is simulated through an activity. The activity that we are going to engage in now is titled The Nine Spots. Uh, I will now share with you a slide which contains the picture of nine spots arranged in a square. Uh, I will share the screen. I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see. Yes, we can see.
Thank you. You have to join the nine spots which are arranged in like a square using four straight lines without lifting the pen from the paper and without retracing over any line. I will explain it. If you draw a line, you cannot go back on the same line. you have to go further from there to in any other direction instead of only reverse direction. And another is it should be continuous. You should not lift the pen from the paper. It should be continuous. Uh, and you have to join them using 4 straight lines. Curves are not allowed. I hope the puzzle is clear to you. I learned that many of you are already familiar with this puzzle, and therefore, for their benefit, for the benefit of those who have already done this and who are familiar with the answer to this puzzle, may try another puzzle, which also I will present. Before I remove this from the screen, I request all of you who are going to engage in this activity to draw the 9 spots, uh, because now I will share with you the other slides. I will give half a minute's time for you to draw the 9 spots in a square order. I'm now changing it. I hope you have drawn. Yes. Here, the task is something very similar to that, the same conditions. You should not lift the pencil from the paper. You should not retrace. And you have to join instead the 4 spots using 3 straight lines. There are 9 spots using 4 straight lines. Here, 4 spots using 3 straight lines. So the choice is yours. You may either choose this or the other one. And once you have drawn, please raise your hand or mention it in the chat. And after some 4 or 5 participants have already got the answer, I will request you to present your answers through your camera. Until then, don't show it, because so that the thrill of others, to do it on their own will be lost if they know the answer. So once you have drawn, please keep it with you. And once the moderator Radhika tells you to present it on the screen, you may show it to the camera. As all of you have drawn, I am now removing it from the screen.
So I would, what I would suggest is whoever gets it, keeps it with them. Pushya has said, I've got something. So Pushya, hanging out there. Let's get 3 or 4 more people. That was very quick, Pushya. Shireen has asked 4 dots joined by 3 lines. I think it's again, she's clarifying regarding the second experiment, Mr. Sarma. Shireen is clarifying whether it is 4 dots joined by 3 lines.
Yes, yeah. 4 dots join all the 4 spots using 3 straight lines.
Yeah.
The other one is 9 spots using 4 straight lines. It may not be proportionate, it may be disproportionate, but that is what the activity is. For 9 spots, you are allowed 4 straight lines, whereas 4 spots, you are allowed 3 straight lines. So naturally, the latter is easier.
Okay, so we do have, so here again, there are going to be people who have perhaps done either or both of these exercises. If you know it and you've done it before, so you have the answers, we would request you just look back at what the struggle you went through. So, and be patient as we wait for people who have not done this exercise, whether they can get to the answer. So we would like a person who has not heard of the exercise and then they have come to the solution.
And I would like to clarify something. The purpose of this exercise is not to test anyone's intelligence, because I know I'm most unsuited to do that. The purpose of this exercise, as I mentioned earlier, is to simulate an experience from which we will emerge with learning which are relevant to the topic. So the more you struggle to do it, the more will be the learning. Therefore, if anyone who finds it difficult to achieve the task, to solve the puzzle, don't feel discouraged. Instead, feel happy because you are getting more experience. As Thomas Alva Edison got experience, failing 1,000 times. So the more you struggle, the better it is from the point of view of learning. Because as I clarified already, it is not to test anybody's intelligence. So it is good if you find it difficult. And those who have already got it, I would request you to reflect on the struggle that you underwent and try to recollect, try to find out what was the learning from that. And also, after doing it, you may write in a piece of paper what prevented you from solving the puzzle. And if you had solved the puzzle easily, what was the reason for your being able to solve the puzzle easily? And this is for your own internal consumption, which will help you to participate in the subsequent discussion effectively. I believe that many might have already done it now.
Yes, so I do have Uma, who has got it. I've got Shireen, who says she's got the 4-1. And I think we have Sandeep. Oh, so as we go along, there are people who have been able to. So there are 3 or 4 people, Mr. Sarma, who as of right now have solved it. And and there's one, Ekta Behel has got the 9.1.
Oh, okay.
No, oh yeah, okay. And yes, so Uma's got, you're not to give the answers actually.
What I feel is we will ask those who picked up the 4 spots to present the answers first, because the 9 spots is more difficult than the 4 spots. Number 1. And number 2, the 9 spots, I already learned from Jawad that many participants have already done it. So, Radhika, shall we request those who have done 4 spots to...
Yeah, so I think the one who has got the first one was Shireen. So Shireen, why don't you, if you've done, because she had clarified, has Shireen got it or not? I don't know. But
that is okay. That is perfectly okay.
Yeah. Shireen, have you been able to get your get the answers?
I think so. I've got for the 4 spot. For the 9-1, I'm still figuring it out.
So if you got for
the 4-1, I think I did.
So the 4 spot,
yeah. So that
that picture, can you show to the camera so that I can also see it? I request other participants who have not completed not to see it. Okay, good. Shireen,
okay, so I was trying the 9 also.
Because
but that's the 4-1.
How to prevent others from seeing it, and therefore, Shireen,
we can send it to you by WhatsApp, Mr. Sarma. Then you can see it without showing.
That is also good. Yeah, the mobile is with me. Shireen knows my WhatsApp number, so you can do it.
Okay.
I also sent it to you.
And
I need to
get before that, Ms. Pushya Sitaraman has already WhatsApped me for the 9 spots. Congratulations, Ms. Pushya Sitaraman. You have done
9
it.
and the 4.
There is a minor error. That answer you will come to know perfectly once I present the answer on the slide. Thank you, Ms. Pushya Sitaraman. Yes, now Shireen, yes.
Let me just take a picture. Give me a minute. Yeah, if you just give me a minute, I'll just take a picture. And
yeah, in the meantime, I will give my mobile phone number for the benefit of those who do not know my mobile phone number. double
Sir,
nine.
the same thing can be sent on the personal chat here
On
only.
on private.
On Zoom, they can send it through the personal chat window also.
And Ekata, congratulations. You have done it perfectly well. Thank you. And I could see number of attempts you have made, and you have really struggled, but you have finally arrived at the right answer. Congratulations, Ekata. Yes. Then Shirin.
I sent it.
Shirin.
I just sent it.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, Shirin also. No, Shirin is incomplete. Once you see the answer, you will know. Wait,
Okay.
you have not violated any condition. You have stuck to the conditions, but and you also touched all the 4
4
spots.
points. Yeah.
But
They need to be joined, you thought.
there are 2 gaps. That is not
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah, I thought so, maybe. Okay, I'll work on it.
And Umar Ramanathan, Umar Ramanathan also has done similar to that of Shirin. Perhaps I did not explain the condition very clearly. That is, all the 4 spots should be connected. There should not be any gap. Then Revati. Revati has congratulations, Revati. Revati has joined the 4 spots using 3 straight lines in the manner we expected. Yes. Then from Kajal. Kajal also has done like others. There are gaps, and Ekata had done the 9 spots correctly, but the 4 dots there are gaps. It's amazing. I thought 4 is easy and 9 is more difficult, but in fact, this is a lesson in mediation also. Something that we think is very easy, the other party may not find it easy to understand, and vice versa as well. And Pushp has done 4 spots correctly. Congratulations, Pushp. Okay.
Did you see my 4 spots, Mr. Sarma? Kajal this side.
Kajal.
4 spots.
Yeah, that is what I said. You have done it, and you have also tried various ways, but there are gaps. You have joined the 4 spots, but there are gaps. As far as the 9 spots are concerned, there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines you employed. You are permitted to use only 4 lines. But I appreciate your attempt. You have come very, very close to the right answer. And that experience is what is important. Now to save the time, I think I will present the answer on the slide, if all of you will permit me. Now, Tangachan.
Yes, tell me, sir. Tell me, sir.
So I'm not able to locate the answer slide on the screen. Would you please share it? I have sent you. That is answer to the puzzle, 9 spots.
And one second. Sir. Can you see, sir? Can you see? Sir, can you see the picture?
Yes,
Sarma
we
sir,
can see
you
the
speak?
picture.
Yes, yes, okay.
Yes, we can see
but
the
you can,
picture.
if you make it a slideshow, Tangachan,
Yes,
it will
yes.
be more interesting.
Yes, yes,
It will be
okay.
more interesting. This gives us a ready-made answer. The slideshow will also explain how it was drawn. Good. I hope all of you have got the answer. Now, I hope all of you, those who maybe will give half a minute's time for people to see it and draw it on their papers. The answer to the 4 spots.
The second one.
Second one, the 4 spots.
Yes, yes.
Good. Now, one thing, this is an answer. There is also another answer which one of the participants had given. I will try to check who is that. And that is also interesting. That is Pushpa. Pushpa has drawn it in a different manner. I will show it on the screen, or we can enable Pushp to show it on the screen. From the paper, it will be more clear. Or I will show it. I think with the mobile, it cannot be shown. Pushp, would you please show it to the camera?
Sir, you said it on WhatsApp. You please send Pushp's answer on
I have
WhatsApp
seen.
to Mr. Thankachan, and Thankachan ji will share it on the screen for everyone's benefit.
Yes, yes. He will do that effectively.
Please, please.
See, in both the cases, the 9 spots as well as the 4 spots, there are more than one way of doing it. In 4 spots, there are 2 methods. In the case of 9 spots, also there are 4 methods. So that is one of the things, if you set a goal through many ways, you can reach them. Now, as Thankachan is trying to present Push's different answer, which is also
so I will do. You carry on. I will do. By that time, I will do.
Yeah. In the meantime, we will start the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I will request all of you to give your learning from this experience that you underwent. What you can do is you may raise your hand so that the moderator will unmute you and you can speak. Or if you would prefer to share it on the chat box, you can share it on the chat box and the moderator will read it out to me.
Thank you. I was not able to speak because I was on mute. That's why I was asking you to unmute me.
Yes.
I think this is a very interesting. I remember doing this with Mr. Sarma couple of years ago, and shifting this. The learnings will be very interesting because as we all did it or couldn't find the solutions, there was a thought process that went on. There was a struggle that went on. And I think understanding the struggle and getting to the solution would be a great way in which you could share your learnings. Whoever has been able to find that solution, and that took quite quickly, Mrs. Sarma. Quite surprising, right?
Thank you. Now, would you like to share any learning from this experience?
I think Rukmani ji has just raised her hand. She wants to have a word.
Yes. Rukmini ji, please unmute yourself. Yes, yes.
Yeah, frankly speaking, I couldn't do it. So I was just looking at how the others have done it. So to me, this sort of reminded me of when you reach an impasse in mediation, that when you struggle to see parties understand each other's perspective, it looks somewhat very similar to that. And then in mediation, you sort of, think of ways to break the impasse. So that's what I have to say about this. It looks very similar to that to me.
Very good. Very good. There is a similarity.
Sarma sir, excuse me, Sarma sir. Let me
Yes.
show the picture of.
Yes, please.
Yes.
This is how Pushpa had joined the 4 spots.
Okay.
So here all are connected and there is no gap. Thank you, Takachan.
Okay.
Now coming back to the learning that was just given, there is a similarity. Though there is a similarity, there is also a distinct difference. See, we face problems at the place of work, at home, in the community, during mediation, as you were telling, there was a difficulty. And when we face a problem at work or in the community or at home, and we are not getting a solution to the problem, we get either frustrated or angry or depressed, as our nature is. This also was a problem. And most of you, or many of you, could not solve it quickly, and you took time. But I don't think any of you got angry with me or felt frustrated or depressed or anything. You are smiling and doing and enjoying. So what is the difference between this and what happens during a mediation or at any work or at home or in the community? I hope I'm clear with my question. My question is, this was a problem you couldn't solve. When you are not able to solve a problem, many times you lose temper or you feel depressed or unhappy or whatever it is. But here, though it was difficult and you couldn't get a solution so easily, you are not depressed, you are not unhappy. From the responses I can understand. In a physical workshop, I can see the faces of the participants and say they are all very happy. Here also, I am able to infer that you are happy. So what is the difference between this situation and that situation? And there lies the key to an important learning of this workshop. Please don't hesitate to give your answer. There is no wrong answer in this workshop, because this is not a mathematics class where there is a wrong answer and a right answer. If you say something which was not in my mind, it is not a wrong answer. It is a new learning for me, which I learned from you and deliver in another workshop. So you are helping me. Therefore, please feel free to speak out. Don't hesitate. There is no wrong learning. If my question is not clear, I will repeat. Radhika, my question was clear?
Yes, I think, yes, your question was clear. And I think I have one answer which has come from Girish Mutai. And what he's saying, in a real situation, we are attached to the outcome.
Yes. Very good. Anything else he has said? That's all, isn't it? We are attached.
And you have also another one from Ekta Behel. In a conflict, the solution may be something that may not be limited to what the parties have brought to the table as the conflict itself. That's Ekta Behel for you. And
Ekta's statement, can you repeat? I couldn't get it.
Yeah. In a conflict, the solution may be something that may not be limited to what the parties have brought to the table as the conflict itself. So I think what she's really saying is that more likely that the conflict that has been brought to the table, there's a solution which is beyond. And Ekta, if you would like to elaborate on what you have said, it would be great. You could be you can be unmuted.
So sometimes when you have a conflict that the parties are discussing and they're trying to find a solution, sometimes the answer is not only in the problem that they're presenting. So when you examine and you unfurl the underlying interest, the solutions could be several things. Like here, the solution in both the problems was extending the lines. So you were not limited to where the dots or the crosses were. You were not looking at it there. You were extending it out. So sometimes in a conflict, the solution would be to extend those boundaries, to look at possibilities beyond what the parties have actually brought to the table.
Beautiful point, a very subtle point. Thank you. Okay, now I will respond to these two and then we will get the learning of others. I will go to the first one first from Giridhar, you said, because we are not attached to outcome. Yes, that is exactly the reason. See, in a real life situation, when you are trying to solve a problem, what is there in our minds is, if I don't solve the problem, I will not get something. Or if I don't solve the problem, I have to pay such and such a penalty. Yeah, Damocles sword is hanging above me when I am solving a problem in a real life situation. Whereas here, there was no Damocles sword hanging above you. If you don't solve the problem also, nothing will happen. And if you solve the problem also, nothing much is going to happen. As a result, as Giridhar has rightly pointed out, you were not attached to the outcome of the effort. Now, in a real life situation, when we get tensed on the ground that if I don't solve the problem, this is the penalty I have to pay or something I will lose, we get tense. And as a result, our effectiveness is affected. Suppose you imagine a real life situation also, whether it is mediation or elsewhere, you are trying to solve the problem with the same approach you had towards 9 spots or 4 dots. How effective we will be. Because here we were relaxed, but at the same time, we were also indifferent to it. For the 10 or 15 minutes that I gave for you to solve the problem, all of you are engaged like school children, as if this is the most important thing in life and nothing else is there, and you were focused on solving it, and that is why you came out with the answers. Though you knew pretty well there is no penalty for not doing it and there is no reward for doing it. But even then you did it. So in the same mindset, if you could take there, for example, in other words, when we are attached to the outcome of our effort, our efficiency goes down because we get tensed. I will give an analogy. Yeah, there is a great heart surgeon. He has performed 1,000 surgeries. Unfortunately, his wife also is a cardiac patient, and it became clear that a bypass surgery has to be performed on her. And her husband loves her very much. And he felt so tense that he decided that he would not perform the surgery because he wouldn't be effective. And instead, fixed another great surgeon to do it. Now, the 1,000 surgeries that he has already performed, he was concerned about those patients. He loved them also. But the only difference in his relationship with those patients and his wife is that in the case of his wife, he is attached to her. And as a result, he felt tensed and he felt that he couldn't do it. This is what happens in every situation. Radhika was mentioning about my conversation with her on Thomas Alva Edison. See, when Thomas Alva Edison failed 1,000 times and somebody told him you have failed 1,000 times, he said, no, I have not failed 1,000 times. I have eliminated 1,000 combinations that do not work. If you say that it is these are failures, let me tell you, I am going to fail a few more times because I have to try a few more combinations. But I am sure about one thing. Once I have exhausted all the combinations, I'll be left only with that combination which will work. See, after 1,000 failures, according to me, the greatest wonder is not that he invented the electric bulb. The greatest wonder is that he never felt discouraged even after failing 1,000 times. And that was possible for him because he was not attached to the outcome of every effort. And this thought is very beautifully explained in the Bhagavad Gita, a verse in chapter 2, which is very popular. Most of you, if not all of you, might have heard it. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur burma te sapostu karmani. Karmani eva adhikarahate. You have adhikaraha only to karma, to action. Now, generally, it is interpreted as you have a right to your action, ma phaleshu kadachana, and not to the fruits of your labor. You have no right to the fruits of your labor. You have no right only to action. This looks like an ivory tower philosophy. Now, Swami Dayananda Saraswati says that was not the intended meaning of the stanza, though this is how it has been interpreted all along. According to him, the Sanskrit word adhikaraga has two meanings. One is right, and the other is choice. He says you replace this adhikaraga, the meaning with choice, because that is also a meaning of the word adhikaraga. Then it reads like this: you have a choice over the action, but not to the result thereof. Now, Edison had a choice over action of various combinations, but he had no control over the result because the result were determined also by certain other principles which he was not aware of. In the same manner, when you try to join the 9 spots or the 4 spots, you were trying repeatedly, trial and error like Thomas Alva Edison, and you had a choice over the combination that you should take, but you had no control over the result thereof. And according to Swami Dayananda Saraswati, this is not any every tower philosophy. This is a simple fact of life. This is a harsh truth of life, that you have a choice over the action. The result is determined not only by the action, but also by the combination of your action with certain other factors which you are not aware of. He explains it with an example. A man is waiting at the bus stand in the morning to catch a bus to go to the office. The bus is late and he is tense, the bus has not arrived. To his pleasant surprise, suddenly his friend lands there driving his car, stops the car at the bus stop and offers a lift to him to the office. So very happily, he gets into the car and they had a very pleasant conversation on the way to the office, and he reaches office also before time. He is very happy. Now, another situation, Swami Dayananda Saraswati says, he gets into the car, they have a pleasant conversation. Just 500 meters before they reach the office, the car meets with an accident and both the friends get hospitalized for a month. Now, not only that he could not reach the office before time, he could not even attend office for a month's time. But the choice was the same. The combination of the external factor determined it. Therefore, when you get attached to the outcome of the result, which will not be expected one, you will feel weak. Therefore, don't get attached to the outcome. But at the same time, be focused on what exactly you want to achieve, so that, because the second part of the same verse says, don't be attached to inaction, don't be inclined to inaction. You should continue to act. That is what it means. And any other learning anyone would like to add? Or there are a few more learnings in this. And also the learning that I have given, feel free to challenge it. Feel free to disagree with me. I assure you, I will not feel offended. It will make the discussion interesting. Please don't carry it in your mind if you are not in agreement. Please speak out. I'll be grateful to you, happy.
There are some more that have come out on the chat. Should I read it out to you, Mr. Sarma?
Please. You may read one at a time. I will respond and then go to the other one. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we went from Ekta. So then again, I think.
Ekta, I think I have not answered. Sorry. Ekta is a very subtle point. In fact, this is also connected with detachment. Like the combination of factors that we do not know. In the same manner, prima facie, something appears to be the dispute, but there is something behind it. The parties have not brought it to the table. And also there is a possibility, sometimes the parties themselves are not very clear of what the problem is. And in an open discussion that emerges, that is also possible. So either it is a hidden agenda on the part of one or more of the parties, or they themselves are not aware of some problem which emerges subsequently, which a good mediator may be able to unearth it. Thank you. Please,
next. Before I go to the next one, Jawad, would you like to say anything? Our wonderful guest speaker, are there any insights that you would have? Could you unmute Jawad Tankachand, please?
Jawad bhai, please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing here because both of you are the main people. So, but my lesson, which I learned from what Mr. Sarma said, probably I would like to place it at the end of the session. All right.
Okay, sure, sure. I
Interrupt
just
it
thought,
there.
let me, before I move
Yeah.
to the next one, let me get, I hadn't heard your voice. So I said, let me go to Jawad.
Okay.
Okay,
I had
fine.
muted myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, fine. Great. So I will now go to the next one, which is again, this is Shireen. And well, she says, our life did not depend upon it.
Exactly. Our life did not depend upon it. That is exactly the same thing. No
Yes,
Damocles sword was hanging above you.
yes.
Whether you do it or you don't do it, nothing is going to happen. Therefore, if we can shift the uh, same outlook to the problems that we are solving, either at the mediation table or anywhere, we will be far more effective, and we will enjoy the game. Therefore, the basic thing is that uh, you did not consider this 9 spots or 4 spots as a problem at all. You took it as a challenge and faced a challenge with a sportive spirit. Whereas the one that we face at home, in the community, or work, or mediation is problem. Now, if we convert the problem into a challenge and face it with a sportive spirit, we will emerge successful. And then we will have a desire to face challenges. In fact, this is what Jack Welch, the former legendary CEO of General Electric Company, said. He said, a company that aspires to true greatness furnishes its people with big challenges, which, when met, fills them with self confidence, which can come only from within and only from winning. So, convert the problem into a challenge and face it with a sportive spirit. And once we succeed in that and emerge successful, we will be at a higher plane. For example, before you solved this puzzle, you were at a mental level, and after solving this puzzle, you would have felt elated to a higher level. And that is what happens when we face every problem, convert every problem into a challenge, and face it and emerge successful. Yes, Radhika.
Right. So I'm going to the next one, which is from Mehernosh.
Uh,
The trick for me was put down the dots and then rotate the paper in different angles and consider you may have to draw outside perceived boundaries.
uh,
Likewise, looking at points of conflict from different angles.
uh, yes, exactly. That's good learning. And this, you should not go beyond the area of the 9 spots, was not a condition. I never said. See, if you look back, you will realize that, I mean, you means those who could not solve the puzzle will realize that you could not solve it not because of the 3 conditions that I imposed on you. It is because you imposed a condition on yourself. And what was that? That you should confine yourself to the area of the 9 spots. I never said that you should not go out of the area of the 9 spots. Only if you go out and return at an angle, it is possible. So many times, what happens is, as Dr. Napoleon Hill said, our constraints are, our limitations are in our minds. We are not asking a particular question to the disputant because we have no idea whether that is the right question, whether we can ask it. Uh, uh, we have put a condition on ourselves thinking that that is not possible, so I should not ask that question. So many times we have to overcome our limitations. We have unnecessarily put limitations on our thinking, on our imagination. We have to break them. And when we break one structure, we create another structure. If you see all the great leaders of history, where those, whether in the field of science or politics or society or religion, anywhere, they challenged the existing structure and broke it and created a new structure which became stronger. For example, before Mahatma Gandhi, there was not a structure that you could fight against an alien rule in a non-violent manner. Fight means bloodshed. Mahatma Gandhi said that there shall be a fight, but there shall be no bloodshed in a non-violent struggle. And and it was something which people could not believe, but he was able to make them believe it And then that has become the order of the day. And similarly, any great saint or leader, this applies. Thank you, Radhika. Yes.
Right. I think, yeah, a lot of it is about is reinforcing what you're saying. Those are the comments that are coming through. Do you want me to go through all of it in terms of timing? How do
No,
you?
if the learnings are similar, you can skip them, or you yourself can sum up all of them and make in one statement. Yes.
Right, right. Uh,
And you can acknowledge their names
yes,
because
yes.
they have.
I will do that. I will do that. So we have. Firstly, I must say it's lovely to have everyone involved and engaged and sharing. Whether it is Sanjeev Ahuja, it is Kajal, it is Uma, which is who's talks about an observer being detached yet being aware, and I thought that was an interesting sentence that Uma said, which is from the Gita, which talks about being an observer, being detached, and yet being aware.
Beautiful point. Yes. Detached and yet being aware. In a sense, detached involvement is very close to that state.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
And then I have, of course, Prerna. Always good to connect with you, Prerna. A lot depends on one's attitude towards any given situation. So and I think that's an interesting point of reference to say what influences the attitude and what should be the attitude specifically when you're dealing with dealing with a conflict and you want to mediate that.
Thank you, Prerna, for bringing out that point. Otherwise, in fact, that is something I wanted to say. I would have forgotten, but for you, thank you, Prerna. Now, Professor William James, one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, said, attitudes are more important than facts. I repeat, attitudes are more important than facts. Now, being detached, or what Thomas Alva Edison said, I have not failed 1,000 times. I have tried 1,000 combinations which did not work, and I have to try a few more combinations. It is only a shift in attitude. And what I'm going to say now is again related very much to detachment, again from the Bhagavad Gita, from the same chapter. See, at the beginning of the Kurukshetra war, Arjuna is disillusioned. He develops a self-pity. That he has been driven to fight such a bloody war in which he had to fight against his forefathers and teachers whom he greatly revered and respected, and his cousins. So he was in a depressed mood and he had developed a self-pity. And he asked Lord Krishna to guide him. He says, Karpanya dosho pakata swabhava prichami tvam dharma sammoda cheta yatreyasyan nishchitham bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I am suffering from Karpanya dosha. I would interpret its one of the meaning as self-pity. You are my teacher, you guide me, he says. Then Lord Krishna answers, this is exactly what Prerna said now, attitude. He tells Arjuna, first I will say the Sanskrit words and then translate it. Yadirchaya chopapannam surgadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha dabhante yuddhabisam. Yadirchaya chopapannam surgadvaram apavritam. This war which has taken place rather accidentally is heaven with doors open. Arjuna thinks it is hell. What is in front of him is hell. But Krishna tells him, no, what you see in front of you is heaven with doors open. Arjuna says that I am unfortunate. That is why I am driven to this war. And Lord Krishna tells him, no, Sukhina Kshatriya Partha. Only a fortunate warrior like Partha, like Arjuna, will be driven to fight such a war as the one you face now. Because, you see, the same situation, the war front, Arjuna says it is unfortunate, and Krishna tells him, no, only a fortunate warrior like Arjuna will be driven to fight such a war as the one you face now. So you are a fortunate person. And then he tells him, again, this is about detachment. Only one of the two things will happen in this war. Hatova prapsasi surgam, jitva va bokshase mahim, tasmad uttishta kaunteya, yuddhaya kritanischayaha. Hatova prapsasi surgam. You will be killed in this war, in which case you will go to the heaven reserved for brave warriors like you. That is one possibility. And another possibility is jitva. you will win this war, in which case you will rule this earth. So in both the cases, you stand to benefit. So like in this, whether you solve the puzzle or you don't solve the puzzle, you don't lose or gain anything. In the same manner, he says, whether you are killed or whether you win, it makes no difference. In both the cases, you don't stand to lose, you stand to only gain. When this attitude is there, it leads to detachment. Thank you, Prerna. Yes. Now, Radhika, yes.
Yes. Again, I think this is
I will
very,
try to shorten my answers.
yeah. I have a long
Thank you.
one now. I'm going to share 4 learnings from Shiv Kumar, which you all can't see, only I can see. That he's obviously had a very good session. He's had several learnings from the session. Number 1 is never be overawed by the nature of the problem or of the perceived extent of the conflict. I think that's a great point. Never be overawed by the nature of the problem, of the perceived extent of the conflict.
Yes.
The second one is let not thought be
Excuse me,
constricted.
I will just explain this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. So Shiv has.
Sorry, you may come. Sorry.
Yeah, Shiv has got. I'm going to be talking about 4 points that Shiv has made. So would you like me to go point by point, or should I go through all the points and then you will respond?
Okay, what we will do is, the point that you have raised, I will respond, and then you can complete all the points in one response.
Okay.
Because I was very much excited about what Shiva had said here. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale says, don't think that the problem is overwhelming, because you are bigger than any problem. You are bigger than any problem. And problem is smaller than you. Thank you. Yeah, Radhika, you may come.
Yes. So that was the first one. The second one is, let not thought be constricted by past experiences. That's the second point that he's made. And that was his learning. Should I go to the third one?
Please.
Essential to be open to new experiences and to tread into uncharted territory is the third learning that Shiv has taken away. And the fourth learning is not to presume that my experience is only valid, is the only valid experience, and all others are invalid. Very nice.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Great learning. And on the third and the fourth one, I will be expanding with more details on the detached involvement. Then you will recollect. Same thing I'll be repeating in different words. Thank you.
Right. And the last but not least is varied perceptions are common.
Sorry?
That's an interesting state. Varied perceptions.
Varied perceptions.
Varied perceptions are common.
Yeah. Actually, on these varied perceptions, I had planned to conduct another activity, but already it is 5:30. So 6 o'clock, if the participants are willing to give me another half an hour or so, I will conduct that. Otherwise, on another day. Each one looks at the world through his window. So perception varies from person to person. The perception of Arjuna was very different from the perception of Lord Krishna. Just now it will be the same one. But thank you. Any other learning that has come?
Well, that was, and then we have a lot of thank yous that have come, and then there's from Tanu, Tanu Mehta. Hi Tanu, good to see you as well as connect with you. So Tanu says, or in both cases you will lose. Even that is a humbling thought.
Yeah. Beautiful. That is a new dimension to the learning. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Very good.
And then I have from Hari Krishan, who says, every coin has both sides, but it could be seen that but it could be seen that only one side, unless one tries to see the other side. So basically saying, how do we see both sides of the coin and not just one side? Thanks, Hari. Always, I think we always get stuck on that, for sure.
Yeah, we need to see things from different perspectives. Yes.
Yes. So I think we have some very nice thank yous as well, where there's been appreciation from Humanshu and a whole lot of others, but I think we are running out of time. But I can only
Yes.
tell you that you have a lot of people who have said that they have learned, they love the examples, they have learned from your what you have referred to. So I think in the short time you have done a excellent session on experiential learning.
No, the session is not over. Only half.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kajal. Okay.
Thank you. Now I'm also in a hurry. Thankachan, the same slide. Thankachan, the same slide. You know that answer. You be ready to present the next. You can present the next slide.
That is cube. Cube.
No, not cube. No, cube. There is no time now.
Okay.
The same slide, answer you presented was the first page. Second page.
Okay. 1 second.
And that also you can make it as a slideshow.
Okay. 1 second.
Now, as he's bringing the slide to save the time, I will start one discussion. Now, you try to recollect. Thankachan, you need not present it. You keep it ready. I will.
Okay. Definitely. I will keep it ready. Yes.
See, you try to recollect how we engage in this activity. I presented the puzzle on the screen and told you that you had to join the 9 spots or the 4 spots with certain conditions. And the manner in which I told you, all of you got the message that it was possible. And all of you believed in my words. And as a result, you started doing it. And a few of you might have found it very difficult. But even then, you didn't give up. You continued to try. And as a result, ultimately, all of you got it. Now, listen to me carefully. Suppose I had conducted the activity in a different manner. I presented the slides and asked you like this. Is it possible to join the 9 spots using 4 straight lines with these conditions? Or the 4 dots with the 3 straight lines with these conditions? What would most of you, if not all of you, would have told me, excepting those who already knew the puzzle? What would all of you have told me? Maybe you can unmute all of them, or you can give the answer on the chat. Yes, that is better. What would all of you have told me? I will repeat the question. Is it possible to join the 9 spots using 4 straight lines, or the 4 dots with 3 straight lines with these conditions? Is it possible? Suppose I had put the question to you instead of asking you to solve the puzzle. What would all of you have told me, excepting those who knew about these puzzles? You may give the answer in the chat box. Some 4 or 5 answers comes, you can proceed. You have to just say not possible or possible. That's all.
Well, I would have said not possible for sure.
Not possible, yeah. Generally, in any workshop that I conduct, that is what I say, it is not possible. Almost all the people would say it is not possible. So one learning is that even unanimous opinion can go wrong. Okay, that is another important learning is, see, if I ask you whether it is possible, you would have told me it is not possible. But because I told you it was possible and you believed in my words, you continued to try even though it looked impossible, and as a result, you could make it possible. So there is an important lesson in motivation. If I had asked you whether it is possible, you would have spent some 2-3 minutes and thrown the paper and the pencil and come to the conclusion it is not possible. But because I told you it was possible, though it appeared impossible, you never gave up until you got it yourself or through a clue or when the answer was put on the slide. So this is an important lesson in motivation. Now, Thankachan, on that,
Yes.
can you go to the, you presented the first slide. Can you go to the third slide?
Okay, 1 second.
Which gives a formula.
Okay.
Dr. Victor Room, an industrial psychologist, gave a formula to explain the motivation level in people. I think it is the second one, not the third one.
Yes.
Second one. The second one.
Yes, this one.
Yes. You can
I shall
share with you the full screen. Yes. See, Dr. Victor Room's expectancy theory of motivation. Here he says, force is equal to valence into expectancy. By force, he means the strength of motivation in a person. When all of you were engaged in solving these puzzles, your force was very high. The strength of motivation was very high. How was that motivation achieved? One is valence and another is expectancy. By valency means the preference for a particular outcome. What was the particular outcome? The 9 spots joined by 4 straight lines, or the 3 or 4 dots joined by 3 straight lines. In other words, a goal plus a desire to achieve the goal. That is valence. Expectancy is the expectation, the hope, the faith that if you try, you will get it. That the probability that a particular action will lead to the desired outcome. So now you will agree with me. See, sometimes we are so motivated, we feel like doing everything in the world. Sometimes we feel so depressed, we are not inclined to do anything. We just retire ourselves before the TV. This happens to many of us, if not most of us. Now, if you analyze the situations when we are not motivated to do anything, either valence, that is goal, or desire was not there, or expectancy, the hope, the faith, the self-confidence was not there. So if we have to motivate ourselves to do something, it is very important that we should have a goal, a desire to achieve the goal, and a faith in our ability to achieve the goal. If we have to motivate another person also, we have to instill in him the goal, instill in him the desire to achieve the goal, and instill in him also the faith that if he tries, he will achieve it. This is very important in mediation and in negotiation. The mediator should first have the faith that an agreement can be reached. There is some way by which both the parties will come together and happily agree. Uh, and that is the goal, and that is also the hope, the third one, the expectancy and a desire to achieve that. And similarly, when the parties seem to be losing hope, even though the situation may be very bad, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale says, formulate and stamp indelibly a picture or a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. Never permit it to fade. Never think of yourself as failing. That is most dangerous, for the mind always tries to complete what it pictures. So always picture success, no matter how badly things seem to be going at the moment. And that is possible only when there is a detached involvement. When we are attached to the outcome, we look at the immediate failures that we met with and we feel weakened. So picture success. And same thought was expressed by Swami Vivekananda, who said, whatever you think that you will be, that you will be. If you think yourselves weak, you will be. If you think yourselves strong, you will be. So force is equal to valence into expectancy. Valence is goal plus desire, and expectancy is the expectation or the hope or the faith or the self-confidence. So if we ensure that these three are there, goal, desire, and faith are there, we will be able to sustain the momentum. Thank you, Tankachan. You can go to the next slide and slideshow. I will try to go fast. Yes. Yes. One after the other. One after. Sorry. See, it appeared impossible. Now it has become possible. So nothing is impossible. Second, some things look impossible, but there can be a breakthrough. See, this point that nothing is impossible is really a fact. Dr. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. I repeat, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. He interviewed Thomas Alva Edison. See, Thomas Alva Edison conceived in his mind a lamp that would glow and give light without having to burn oil. And he had the faith that he will be able to invent it. And when he set that as a goal, he had no clue of how he was doing it. And he worked backwards, and with so many failures, experiments, he finally achieved it. And this thought is very beautifully driven home in the New Testament. I quote from Mark 11:22 to 24. Have faith in God, Jesus answered. I tell you the truth. If anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, Forgive him, so that your Father in heaven will forgive you your sins. See, it is very easy to look at a mountain and say, go immerse yourself into the sea. But very, very difficult it is to believe that what you say will happen. And once you are able to believe that what you say will happen, it will be done for you. A similar thought is expressed in a story, I think, told in the Upanishads. A sage was traveling through the woods, through the thick forest, and to reach the destination, they had to cross a river which was big and which was full. And they were wondering how to cross the river. So the disciple, who was only 17 years old, who had absolute faith in his master, asked the master, the sage, sir, how do we cross this river? Then the Rishi told his disciple, haven't I taught you, you say Narayana, Narayana, prayed to Lord Mahavishnu, close your eyes and walk on the river. You will be able to walk on the water and cross it. This young man had absolute faith in God as well as in his master. He closed his eyes and said Narayana, Narayana, and he walked over the river and crossed the river. Seeing this, the sage was thrilled. Though he was a great scholar and whatever he had learned, he was teaching his disciple, subconsciously, he did not believe that such a thing was possible, which his disciple demonstrated. So he also closed his eyes, prayed to Lord Narayana, and said Narayana, Narayana, and stepped into the water and got immersed in the water. So faith is what makes the difference. And that is very important to succeed in any venture, including mediation. Yeah. The next one, Tankachan. I'm trying to restrain myself from speaking because of the time. We have a tendency to go round and round in the existing structure because of our attachment to the known. See, if the four dots have to be joined, there is already a frame in our mind which says that the four dots can be joined only within the area of the four dots. It is an attachment to the known. That is why unlearning is more difficult than learning. Next point, Tangachan. Next point. By thinking out of the box, no, the previous page, last point. The last point in the previous page. Yes, let it be. Yeah, good. By thinking out of the box, we can be successful. To think out of the box, we have to relinquish our attachment to the known and step into the unknown and explore. I think this point someone had mentioned, Shiv or someone. When we do so, we will get innovative solutions to the problem. So even for thinking out of the box, it is very important that we should relinquish attachment, because attachment to the known, we become prisoners of what we already know. We have to liberate ourselves from that. Next point, Tangachan. If you set a goal, through many ways you can reach them. See, for example, 9 spots, there are 4 ways. And the 4 dots, we saw 2 ways. One was given by Pushpa and another given by Revati, I think. Yes. Next point. Breaking the structure may be the answer for success, which I have already explained. Yeah. Next point. While breaking one structure, we build another one. Yes. Now, Tangachan, I think next is you can close the screen sharing. I will share the other screen.
Mr. Sarma, just wanted to check in on time, because I think it's 5:50. Just to give you a heads up.
5:50.
Yes.
So another 15 minutes I can take, isn't it? 10 minutes. 6 o'clock is the closing, isn't it?
6, yeah. We needed 5 minutes because I did want Jawad to come in, and I wanted to then hand it over to Pooja. So we just need to manage the time.
I will do one thing. The next slide I will not explain. I will just read the slide.
Right.
So that I will finish. Even then I will take 5 minutes, I think. Okay. Yeah. The ego and the self dwell in the same body. The former eats the sweet and sour fruits of the tree of life, while the latter looks on in detachment, says the Mundaka Upanishad.
Mr. Sarma, we can't see you. I think your...
I have not shared the screen.
Not shared.
Yeah. Sorry. I have not shared the screen.
No, not shared.
Okay. share the screen. Ah, yes, I have.
Yes, it is there. Yes, it is there.
Ah, yes.
Yes,
Are you able to see it?
it's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. Oh, you are sharing, or I am scanning?
No. You're sharing.
I am sharing. Okay. Even that I am not aware. Okay. Whenever you encounter, see, all these, the law of detachment is one of the 7 spiritual laws of Deepak Chopra, his famous book, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Whenever you encounter a problem, stay grounded in the wisdom of uncertainty while expectantly waiting for a solution to emerge. If you remain detached, you won't
Mr.
feel
Sarma,
compelled.
sorry to interrupt, but your screen is not showing. There's nothing on the. It's
Sorry?
still. We can't see the screen. I think you need to. It's not coming out there.
No. Actually, it is screen sharing is there. Then
No,
I will do one thing.
it's not coming. It's not coming.
It's not. Then you do one thing. I will stop the screen share. You share that detached involvement slide. Tangachan?
Yes.
Sharma ji, you can just stop screen share and
Yeah,
restart
I have already stopped the screen.
It will start working.
I have already stopped.
Then you can restart it. You can restart it.
I think Tangachan is started. Not this Tangachan.
No. I'm closing it.
Detached involvement. There is a slide.
Yes. I got it. Yes.
Make it a full screen.
Yes.
This is not a slideshow, so I will start. The way to acquire anything is to relinquish our attachment to it. This does not mean that we give up the intention to create our desire. We don't give up the intention, and we don't give up the desire. We give up our attachment to the outcome. The moment we confine one pointed intention with detachment to the outcome, we will have that which we desire. All we need to do is to nurture our deepest intentions in our hearts and go with the flow. Go with the flow is very important. Many times, when it appears to be going differently, we get tense. Instead, go with the flow. When things don't seem to go our way, we can let go of our idea of how things should be. Tangachan, next slide.
Yes.
Next slide. The search for security is actually an attachment to certainty, to the known. And the known is the prison of past conditioning. Freedom from our past lies in the wisdom of uncertainty. Without uncertainty, life is just the repetition of outward memories. There is no evolution in that. And when there is no evolution, there is stagnation, entropy, and decay. Next. In ancient wisdom traditions, the solution to this dilemma lies in our willingness to detach from the known, step into the unknown, and surrender our desires to the creative mind that orchestrates the dance of the universe. The unknown is the field of all possibilities, ever fresh, ever new, always open to the creation of new manifestations. This field can orchestrate an infinity of space-time events to bring about the outcome intended. But when our intention gets locked into a rigid mindset, we lose the fluidity, the flexibility, and creativity inherent in the field. Next slide, Tangachan. Attachment to a specific outcome freezes our desire into a rigid framework, and this interferes with the whole process of creation. With detachment, there is freedom to create. How can we create? When we are clinging and grasping and full of anxiety, we don't need to have a complete and rigid idea of what we will be doing next. Because if we get rigidly attached to that idea, it is hiding a whole range of possibilities. Then we will shut down a whole range of possibilities. Next slide, Tangachan.
Yes.
The law of attachment, the law of detachment, does not interfere with goal setting. We still have the intention of going in a particular direction, but between point A and point B, there are infinite possibilities. With uncertainty factored in, we may change direction. When we experience uncertainty, we are on the right path, and it is the field of pure creativity and freedom. Next. Next. Whenever you encounter a problem, stay grounded in the wisdom of uncertainty while expectantly waiting for a solution to emerge. If you remain detached, you won't feel compelled to force solutions on problems. Very important for mediators. This enables you to stay alert to opportunities, and then what emerges is something powerful and exciting. This is what Uma said. Every problem is the seed of an opportunity for some greater benefit. Once you have this perception, a whole range of possibilities open up, and this keeps the wonder and excitement alive. Only by practicing detached involvement can you have joy and laughter. Next. Relinquish your attachment to the known, step into the unknown, and experience all the fun, mystery, and magic of what may occur in the field of all possibilities. When your preparedness meets opportunity, a solution will spontaneously appear that benefits you and all those around you. Tangachan, practice detached involvement. Stay alert to the opportunity within every problem by letting go of your idea of how things should be. Accept uncertainty as an essential part of your experience. In your willingness to accept uncertainty, solutions will spontaneously appear. Remain open to all possibilities and enjoy every moment in the journey of your life, all the fun, mystery, and magic in the field of your potentiality. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening and active participation. I wish all of you yeah, an adventurous voyage into the unknown. Thank you. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sarma. That was very, very interesting. And I think, I'm sure it's a lovely concept, idea, and thought to take away on a Sunday evening where we have the week ahead, each of us, to actually ponder into the evening what you've really said. Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to bring Javad. Javad, we've been wanting to hear you as well. And we have come to the end of the session. So a few words from you, Javad, and then we will close the session for today, which has been very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Radhika. And thank you, Mr. Sarma. Actually, this when the idea of this webinar came out after the article that Jonathan and I had written was published in Mediate.com, there was a very interesting discussion in which Mr. Sarma and Radhika both contributed immensely. And they expressed some very profound viewpoints. So we thought we will come up with a webinar. And as far as I was concerned, I was looking for a pure learning experience as part of the audience. Then all of a sudden, when the flyer came out, I saw my face plastered on that. And I was really shocked. I said, what is this? Because I was completely unprepared. And now after hearing Mr. Sarma, I mean, it is such a profound lesson that he has taught all of us, detached involvement and the depth to which he has gone. I think anything that I say would be simply like holding a candle to the sun. So the only effort that I will try to make here is try to bring the learnings that we have got from Mr. Sarma to the, from the mediation perspective, how can we look at it? So just one or two points on which I want to speak because already it's quite late. So I don't want to take much of your time. It's a Sunday today and just a day after Diwali. And I'm sure all of you would be wanting to spend time with your families. So two things that I thought of, as I was listening to him, two thoughts struck me on the aspect of neutrality and impartiality. Now, neutrality, from what Mr. Sarma said, it gave me a new meaning to neutrality. What is mediator's neutrality actually? Because we normally say, you know, that mediator should be neutral to both the parties. But I would take it a step beyond based on what I've heard from him now. I would say that mediator should be neutral to the outcome of the mediation. If the mediator is invested in the outcome, either in terms of satisfying his or her own ego or in terms of becoming known as a mediator who works out the maximum number of settlements, or taking it up as a challenge that I have to settle every mediation that I sit in. If that kind of an investment comes from the mediator, the neutrality stands compromised, because that is where you lose your detachment. Okay, so you become involved in the whole thing, and your involvement is with attachment, not with detachment. Now, as far as impartiality is concerned, the second aspect is how the mediator can be impartial to both the parties. How I see it after hearing him is that now that is what our article speaks about. We speak about, mediators holding views, personal views, whether they may be political views, whether they may be ideological views, whatever the views might be. How far can the mediator be impartial with both the parties? Or should the mediator be omnipartial with both the parties? So this is a question that I would leave it to all of you to think about, and maybe we can have another webinar in which we can discuss, because we have some very learned people with us here. I can see Sushila ma'am sitting over there, and we would like to listen from all of you about what you think about it. And today morning we had a very interesting discussion when Shanta and Geeta, tomorrow there's an MCPC training starting. So when we were talking about what is a party-centric process. When we say mediator is party-centric, what do you mean by party-centric? So that discussion led into some very profound exchanges between all three of us, in which we came up with the idea that when you say party-centric, it's not just that parties, it's self-determination, it is how the parties decide that they are going to resolve their conflict. It is not about that. It is all about how, what is the importance that you give to the parties? How important are their feelings? What do they feel about the conflict? How they look at the conflict? It's not about what the mediator feels or mediator thinks. So this is where, the impartiality of the mediator has to remain unaffected by what the parties feel or how they see the conflict or how they behave in the conflict. So these are some of the things that I'm just touching the surface because of lack of time. Maybe we can have another webinar. And, I'm very envious of people who can quote from the Gita and the Quran and the Bible so fluently, because I read, but I forget. I don't remember the quotes. And hats off to Mr. Sarma. I'm always amazed at the way he comes up with these quotations. And, for every aspect, he has got a very beautiful quotation to suit every situation. Now, I was reading this book, Idea of Justice by Amartya Sen, a book which has profoundly impressed me and influenced me. And I feel that it has a lot to do with how we view justice from the, view mediation from the perspective of providing justice to people. In that, he talks about the dilemma that Arjuna faces as a consequentialist and the answers that Lord Krishna gives him as a deontologist. Deontology is a commitment to duty, the one who performs the duty. So Lord Krishna's answers to the consequentialism of Arjuna is to say that do your duty, don't worry about the consequences. What Amartya Sen points out, that once the Mahabharat war gets over, and when you see the dead bodies lying over there, and the wailing of the women, the crying of the children, and how many homes get destroyed, how many people get killed, you start to wonder whether the deontologist was right or the consequentialist was right. So whatever we do, it's easy to say that let us be detached, but how far is our detachment going to affect the outcome is also something that we need to think about. I don't know whether I'm making any sense. I'm speaking very superficially because I'm trying to just rush to saying whatever I wanted to say. But I once again thank Ambassadors of Mediation, Pooja and Kavita, for giving me this opportunity, and for Radhika and to Sarmaji for accommodating me today. Though my presence is, I feel, completely out of place, I would have much preferred to just listen and to absorb all the learning. Thank you so much. Wish all of you a very happy Diwali, and Diwali continues till tomorrow. So I wish you all a continued celebration of this glorious festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, I think I will have to take over as my partner in crime, Kavita, seems to be having some networking issues. So, on behalf of Ambassadors of Mediation, it is me only who I thank first and foremost, Mr. Sarma, Radhika ji, and then the cherry on the top, Jawad sir, for having given such a wonderful session today evening. The participants, of course, who have taken out their time to make this session a great success. This has been a very different session from the regular webinars, as there has been so much of interaction, and there has been so much of coordination, and that moderation was beautifully executed by Radhika ji. Mr. Sarma raised many very, very important points. He said, if I could just spell out one or two, he said, if you set a goal, there are many ways to achieve it. And I think it couldn't have been said more beautifully. And then the word, he said, nothing is impossible. And I'm always reminded of the saying that the very word impossible says, I am possible, if you were to just dissect it as per your convenience. So I always say impossible is I am possible. And then he said, whatever the mind can think and believe, one can achieve it. And there are different ways of arriving to a solution. A mediator needs to have faith and desire to achieve and should not be so very attached to the outcome that he forgets to take the process in the correct way. So there the detachment comes into force. When you talk of faith, then yes, I'm reminded of another saying that faith can move mountains. Jawad sir has ended the session so beautifully with a complete, I would say, all rolled into one. And then it is like we have a new thought process already on for the next session. And Jawad sir, I have read the Bhagavad Gita for a year, one chapter every day, but even I don't remember any of the sayings, barring a few which are so very like in common parlance used often enough, which even Mr. Sarma used today, karmanya ma phaleshu kadachana, that you don't worry about the fruit. Then there's another one, nenan chindande shastrani, the soul cannot be cut, it cannot die. So these are the few very commonly used verses which I do remember. But then there is another aspect to the Bhagavad Gita. It has 18 chapters. That is why probably the age of majority is 18. One chapter a year you learn, and then probably you are mature enough to understand life. It is a book of detachment, I can say that, yes. And with that note, I thank each and every participant for active participation. And we, like children, drawing out the diagrams, forgetting everything just to get the answers correct. Pushp has given a very different diagram from the general lot which was there. So that is another way of looking at things. So her thinking was also an out of the box thinking, just like the other dots were out of the box. So thank everybody, each and everyone individually for all the efforts. And Ambassadors of Mediation is definitely going to come up in another session very soon with new topics, which Jawad sir has given us points to think about. And we welcome more thoughts. Like more people can just write on the Ambassadors of Mediation platform if there's particularly any topic which you want needs to be discussed. We will definitely set it up for you. And thank you once again. And if there's anything anybody wants to say, Jawad sir, Radhika ji, Mr. Sarma, before we end.
Pooja,
And Thankachan ji, who is our main source, who gets it all organized, because I am very, very technically, I still belong to the old era, I would say, where I am not so smart, I'm not that net savvy, but Mr. Thankachan is very, very efficient that way. So thank you, absolutely thanks to you for controlling all the gadgets and for the relays.
Just a minute. I'm very grateful to Thankachan because he only gave the idea when Jawad said that 9 spots any mediators are familiar with. Tangachan came with these 4 dots also. As a result, I could present both. And Tangachan gave a lot of his time. And similarly, Radhika also, when it was said that many people know this puzzle, she gave very good ideas, it was actually a teamwork, though it was presented by me. I'm very grateful to Tangachan, Radhika, and Jawad. Thank you.
No, something before we conclude, I just want to say something about Tangachan, because he is that very unobtrusive person who is behind the scenes, who works all the magic, does all the work, but always remains behind the scenes, never comes forward, never projects himself. So one of those very selfless people, and a very outstanding example of detached involvement.
He's a walking back office. A walking back office of ambassadors of mediation.
Thank you, Tangachan. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words, sir.
And
Okay.
season's greetings to everyone. Happy Diwali, and may the corona wipe away, please, as soon as possible, and we go back to the old normal instead of the new normal.
Okay.
Pooja, can I just correct you a little?
Yes, please, sir.
May corona be wiped away, because if you say we will all get wiped out.
The corona just whatever it has to do, just be wiped away. It's now overwhelming. We've been home almost all the year now.
Okay,
then let me sign off the session, sir.
Please,
3 cheers to Tangachan. 3 cheers to Tangachan.
3 cheers.
Absolutely, 3 cheers. 3 cheers.
Thank you.
Hooray.